In today's episode, we're going over how and why I run an online educational business. So, fitnesspainfree.com. So, what's the problem? What's the issue here? Um, have this conversation a lot with students, and oftentimes students come to Champion Physical Therapy and Performance, where I currently work, and they find us through social media because pretty much everyone at Champion does a lot of social media. And most of us have an online business that's associated with that social media, right? And what it seems like, I think, for a lot of students and new grads, right, and business owners, right, who have brick and mortar businesses, they see everybody else on social media, right? Now, I think social media is a tremendous opportunity, and having your own business is obviously a tremendous opportunity as well. However, I think what's happening is that new grads, students, and then business owners have this sense of FOMO because everyone else is doing social media and they feel like they have to, right? So what kind of happens is that they maybe open up an account. Maybe they just never open an account, which is one of the first problems is that they feel like they need to and they never do. Or they end up opening an account and they start kind of posting nilly-willy with no kind of plan or long-term goals whatsoever. And over the course of time, they kind of figure out, wow, this is hard. This is time consuming and it's not moving the needle whatsoever for me. A, it's hard to actually build the channel, but B, is this helping my business? Is this helping me as a professional? Am I monetizing this in any way whatsoever? And then usually folks kind of stop or they don't put as much effort into it over the course of time. They're like, well, that kind of failed. I hate this social media thing. Right. So, and that's a bit of a problem just because it's a huge opportunity, right? But it's not always for everyone. So essentially, I wanted to talk a little bit today about why I do social media and how I've turned this into an online business and how I've been able to actually monetize what I do on how I do it. Because recently I've gotten a lot of questions about my business, whether or not it's profitable, and then I kind of shot the question out to you guys, and overwhelming majority of folks kind of wanted to see more about how I run Fitness Pain Free. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the history of Fitness Pain Free, right? Kind of how I got started and where we ended up today. I think the other part that's really important is the why of why I run fitnesspainfree.com. That's important. Hopefully that's going to help some folks who are thinking about whether or not they want to start their own online business or just more social media. I'm going to go over how I specifically generate more income, which I think is probably in the back of everyone's mind when they're starting some sort of social media. They're trying to build themselves up. So at some point, they can kind of monetize that audience. I'll show you exactly how I did it. And the other part is I'll try to peel back the curtain a little bit and tell you a little bit about how much income I personally make. I've had a lot of folks ask me whether or not what I do is profitable. Short answer, yes. I'll tell you a little bit about how much. Okay. And the big thing is I want to help you decide if you want to run an online business. And if you do want to run your own online business, hopefully help you skip a few steps along the way. One of the reasons I've been able to be successful today is because I've had great mentors along the way. One of which is Mike Reinold. I always try to shout him out as much as possible. One of the main reasons why I moved from Colorado over to Massachusetts is because I wanted to be surrounded by phenomenal clinicians, which mission accomplished, right? The second piece is because Mike Reinold is one of the smartest minds in business. Any type of business, but more specifically online physical therapy businesses. And I wanted to learn more. So that's the reason why I moved out to Champion, or one of the reasons. Let's help you skip a few steps. So before we get going, I want to let you know about my Fitness Pain Free Mini Course. If you like what you're learning about in this lesson and others, I think the next logical step is go ahead and download this. I'll put a link in the bio. If you're watching this on Instagram right now, it's in my profile under the highlights section. It's a free mini course. We go over 5 different lessons, well, 4 really. The first one is how traditional schooling has failed us. I love university education. I think it set a great foundation. It's just that it doesn't really teach you to be a master or an expert working, especially in strength and fitness. I'm going to help you learn how to start doing that. We're going to go over 7 reasons why people get hurt in the gym. If you don't understand why people are getting hurt in the gym, how the heck are you going to rehab them and keep them safe in the future, right? Doesn't make any sense. We'll go over why people get hurt. We'll go over 4 simple steps for getting your clients out of pain. I think there's a lot of very complicated systems out there right now in terms of how to rehabilitate folks. I don't think it needs to be that complicated. I'll go over a very simple formula that you can follow for your patients, for your clients. We'll go over how to build a career of your dreams and earn the respect of your community. So at the end of the day, You're probably watching this content because you want to be a little bit better as a coach and or a clinician. However, the reason why you really want to be a better coach or clinician because you want to do a good job with your patients, you want to earn their respect, you want to feel like you're a valued clinician, coach, whatever it is. I'll teach you how to do that. And lastly, I'll go over the fitness pain-free certification. More of that in a second, but I'll leave this in the show notes if you want to check it out. And if you're watching right now live, you just go to my profile and it's in the highlight section. Okay. If you do like the mini course, the next step from that is a fitness pain-free certification. And this is my largest and most comprehensive course that I offer. This is open for enrollment 4 times per year for a 1-week period. The next enrollment period is open at the start of April. If you sign up for the fitness pain-free mini course, you're going to be automatically enrolled into a waiting list for the fitness pain-free certification. You'll get early access, plus you'll save $300 if you decide to enroll. Again, it's the course I wish I had when I graduated as a newer physical therapist that didn't really have the expertise in strength and fitness that I wanted to. So take a look, link in the bio. Let's get going. I'll answer that question towards the end, but I have a whole lot of ACL rehab content on Fitness Pain Free. Pretty easy to just go ahead and do a search on my YouTube channel or my website, and you'll see a lot of information pop up. I'm always putting out ACL content. All right, so history of Fitness Pain Free. So I started Fitness Pain Free about 12 years ago. Believe it or not, it started as a training blog. My first kind of blog was called Strength, Food, Life because I was a personal trainer at the time and I loved to compete in strongman. And I was kind of documenting my journey. So I was posting all of my training and kind of sharing the information I learned along the way. And eventually I turned that from a training blog into an educational platform. And that actually started as something called achievemorefitness.com, which was very fitness focused. But then as I started to shift gears and go into PT school, my passion kind of shifted and my expertise shifted. So I started fitnesspainfree.com with the idea being that I wanted to help folks that had pain, right? But really like strength and fitness, right? And you guys, if you guys follow fitnesspainfree.com, you kind of know my whole mission, what I try to do and the people I try to serve at fitnesspainfree.com. But that's kind of how it started. And essentially, one of the reasons why I ran fitnesspainfree.com was because I just saw other folks doing it within my industry. And I thought it was really cool, right? So I followed folks like at the time, Mike Reinold was one of the first guys to do this. Eric Cressy was starting his career at that time. Tony Gentilcore was doing the same. I loved what the West Side guys were doing in terms of putting out information. I read a lot of testosterone.com, testosterone.net, tnation.com, had a whole bunch of different names over the course of time. I was just following all these coaches, and it was really, really cool to see them putting out information. And I kind of just wanted to be in their shoes, right? When I found that, and I love learning, and that's a big foundation of why I run Fitness Pain Free, more on this later. But as I was learning stuff, I found that I could share this, which was super cool for me. It was allowing me to create content, which social media allows you to be a creator or more of an artist, which is actually a pretty cool and fun thing to do. Making social media is fun and engaging and cool. And allow me to share, kind of learn more myself, and then hope to build the community, help the community largely. So it's a really cool thing to run a business like this because I get to learn, I get to share, I get to grow myself, and I get to help others, right? So there's a lot of really cool things that come from that. And at the end of the day, I loved building something, right? And I really didn't realize this, but the whole idea of building out more content, building this library, building this university level of education, right? That just lives for free on a website that everybody can access at all times is super exciting to me. And I just loved building and growing this. So it's just a huge passion from the get-go. And really at the end of the day, I kind of wanted to monetize this eventually, but that's not how I started, right? And I just learned that marketing and growing and trying to be influential was fun. And it just really scratched that itch that I had personally. So it's kind of why I started in the early stages and why I continue to do this today, right? So like I said, I started as a training blog, and this turned into an educational platform over the course of time. And I was doing a ton of learning. I was doing a lot of networking, which was a unintended consequence of starting fitnesspainfree.com. And this is one of the major reasons why I think it's good for other folks to start social media accounts. And this is not something that's always super tangible or can't always predict when this is going to happen. But for me, some of the greatest opportunities I've had in the entirety of my life have come through running fitnesspainfree.com, running my social media. I work at Champion today, because of my business and my social media, I've been able to get a job with Power Monkey Fitness, right? Which is another company that I work for, which has allowed me to work with, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different CrossFit Games athletes, work with a multitude of Olympians, just expanded my reach nationally or internationally. I've been able to travel and speak all over the world simply because I was putting myself out there on social media. Didn't expect for that to happen, but it's been one of the coolest opportunities I've ever had, right? Like I said, I was just following mentors of mine and trying to do what they were doing. And I really didn't have clear cut goals at the time, which I fine tuned over the course of time, which has really allowed me to continue loving what I'm doing currently. Right. And the last piece was like, all right, well, and this is a problem that everyone faces that pushes social media for long enough. They're like, all right, this is a lot of work. And I already work full time and I'm going above and beyond with my patients. And, I'm getting married and I'm going to have kids and things are getting busy and kind of need some more money. And I don't know if I can keep doing this unless I am actually returning a little bit of profit. Okay. So eventually I kind of was thinking like, can I start making some money off of this? Right. And I was trying what other folks were doing. I was seeing what was kind of sticking over the course of time. And I've just adapted based on what has worked and what didn't. Right. But the first product I sold was actually a training program. And this is for both affiliates, so CrossFit affiliates, as well as regular people that like training. And I did this, oh my gosh, this is probably about 9 or 10 years ago. So the first like foray I had into making a little bit of money was selling training programs, And since then, I've moved away from that, as you can tell on my site, but I still sell a few, right? So one of the most important parts of running a business, and this is something that wasn't clear cut for me at the start, and I wish I was a little bit better about this, is actually having a target market and sticking with that target market and going very deep with that target market, really trying to serve them as much as possible. Initially, I had no clue, right? I was just kind of starting a website and trying to share information and just hoping that people would like that. Okay. And over the course of time, I shifted that to more of a general population. So basically, folks that maybe had some low back pain or some knee pain. And I was trying to help them, give some tips and pointers on how to train with this problem and how to rehabilitate a little bit on their own, right? And then I kind of made that more specific to CrossFitters because I was doing a ton of CrossFit at the time, seeing a lot of CrossFit athletes. It's like, all right, I feel like I can really help these folks. And I also saw a lot of early success. A lot of folks were at the time reading my website just because social media wasn't that big and my numbers were very, very big at the time. I was seeing a lot of folks on my site that were just getting value from me talking about CrossFit and dealing with common CrossFit injuries, right? And over the course of time, I just adapt this to serving more of coaches, right? So CrossFit coaches, personal trainers, and strength conditioning coaches. And this was mostly because I was just loving that. And I was noticing that a lot of the readers on my site and a lot of the folks that were kind of watching my content were coaches. So I was trying to serve them a little bit better. So my content kind of shifted that way. And over the course of time, I actually started doing less coaching. So I started when I ran Fitness Pain Free, I was actually a full-time personal trainer and coach. If you don't know that about me, CrossFit coach. And then I went to school and I continued with personal training. I continued with CrossFit coaching. I started my career as a physical therapist and I continued to coach and personal train for years and years. Eventually, I moved away from that to focus more on being a better clinician, right? And one of the things I do currently is I work with a lot of students at Champion PT and Performance. I've worked with a lot of students in the past, and I am focused on being a really good clinician, right? So the most organic content that I can create is based on what I do on a very regular basis and what I consider myself more of a master or an expert clinician. So that's what I started doing, is just sharing what I'm doing on a regular basis, which is teaching, right? Physical therapists, mostly kind of new grads and students, as well as what I'm doing on a very, very regular basis with my patients, right? And I found that I love that. And I also found over the course of time that that was probably the most lucrative thing that I was doing with my business. So more on this later, but I've sold so many different products over the course of time. I've made a crazy amount of them, right? Think about it. I've had 10 years to make products and I've been a nutcase in terms of creating stuff. I'm a big time creator. And I just kind of push the things that seem to work well. And the things that work the best for me currently and historically have been more coach clinician based educational products. So that's where I've shifted over the course of time to the point where my avatar or my target market is very, very specific, right? So I'm trying to target coaches and clinicians, mostly clinicians. So physical therapists, chiropractors, doctors, but mostly physical therapists, right? That have a strength or fitness bias. So those folks that like health and wellness, they like barbell sports, they like CrossFit, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting. That's my market, right? I'm targeting folks that are between the ages of 25 and 35. Why is that? I feel like my content is most applicable to a younger clinician, right? Either a student or, let's say, a new grad that's a few years out. That's the folks that tend to watch my social media most. And when I put out survey data, that's what I find, I seem to attract. So I'm just going down that rabbit hole. I'm pushing that as much as I can. And like I said, it's mostly students and new grads. A lot of folks kind of give me this feedback that a lot of my content is kind of basic, right? It's basically the nuts and bolts of how to do physical therapy for certain populations. And you know what? At first, I was a little offended by that. I was like, you think my stuff is simple and basic? That's a little offensive. But at the end of the day, it's like that's what I'm trying to deliver. I'm trying to simplify physical therapy for new grads and people that are trying to get better working with barbell athletes, right? So since then, I've kind of realized like that's actually the message I want to get across. I don't want this stuff to be super complex. I want it to be simple. I want it to be basic. I want to help the newer folks out there, the new grads, the ones that want to get better. And I want to make it simple because I believe that I think we overcomplicate our physical therapy sometime. And I want to bring it back down and make it easy to learn, right? Okay. I think this is one of the coolest aspects of my business and what I do at Fitness Pain Free. Because my business doesn't just serve making me more money. It's one of the things that it definitely does, right? And that's cool. I obviously want to make some money. That's a good thing for me. But one of the biggest reasons why I started Fitness Pain Free is because I love to learn, okay? And one of the biggest problems out there in the world of physical therapy is that you could be the dumbest physical therapist in the world, and you can be the best physical therapist in the world and get paid exactly the same within a clinical setting, right? It's actually a little bit backwards in some ways, because if you are a physical therapist with zero experience, someone can hire you at a clinic and pay you less money, and you're going to reimburse exactly the same as a super seasoned clinician, which some sort of clinic owner may have to pay more because they have years and years of experience. So in a lot of ways, it actually favors the business owner to hire a new grad with less experience because it allows them to make more money, right? So the smarter you get as a physical therapist, yeah, it makes you a better clinician. You help people a little bit more so. It doesn't always make a lot more money for you. So that stinks, right? And that's an inherent problem. So how can we get better and actually profit from that? So I love to learn, and I wanted to eventually make some money for learning more, right? And if you're spending all your time learning and growing, that's awesome. It feels great, but you're not necessarily making more money off of that. So that was a kind of inherent problem. So more on this later, but what I did with my learning is I took that learning, I integrated it, right? And I continue to do this on a very regular basis. All the research I read, what I'll do is I'll take that research and I integrate it into the systems I currently utilize, right? So I have all sorts of programs, templates that I follow for, let's say, someone that has knee pain that wants to get back to Olympic weightlifting. If I learn something new, that's cool. I'll try it out with my patients, right? I'll see if it's something that's worthwhile keeping into my programs and integrate it into my current systems, right? What else do I do? Well, if you consume Fitness Pain Free, you know I create a ton of media. So the content that I'm currently learning about, I will share. I will turn this into all sorts of different types of content. So the content that you're learning about right now, I'll turn this into Fitness Pain Free show episodes. I'll put this into short form content on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook Reels, all over the internet. So I'm sharing this everywhere. I'm having discussions about this with folks that are consuming that, right? What's really cool is that I am taking the content that I'm learning about, I'm sharing it, I'm teaching it to people around the world, right, through social media, as well as the students I'm working with on a regular basis. I'm having conversations about this. I'm integrating this into my clinical practice, right? And this is going to help me to learn the content even better. Because if you can learn something and then teach it to someone else, that's going to make you much better at actually keeping it inside your brain, because unfortunately brains aren't great at keeping this information for the long term, right? There's actually a really, really cool learning experience for me. And the other part is that I get to help other people and grow and have these really cool conversations that are, global, right? As well as within my local community at Champion, which is awesome. I'm also speaking. So folks are asking me to speak. Folks are asking me to create additional content. So I'm currently making a book with human kinetics, which is awesome, but I'm just taking all my information and I'm sharing it, right? So it's a really cool opportunity for me to solidify my current knowledge, make my systems better, and share that with the rest of the world, which is such a cool thing, right? So you can learn, you can grow, and you can love that and be stimulated by that and help thousands and millions of people at this point all around the world. That's such a cool thing, right? That's a huge part of my business, and it's been really neat over the course of time. And the last piece is that I monetize this knowledge, right? And I do this mostly through educational courses. So you can see I do a lot of learning. I'm currently serving patients. I'm gaining experience. I'm getting better and better at what I do. I'm creating these systems, and then I package up these systems into courses and programs, and I sell them to folks, right? So you can see how this business really comes full circle for me. It allows me to learn, grow, be stimulated by that, love what I'm doing, and then profit off of that and help people in the process. Okay. And like I said previously, all the networking and growth is all in the mix. I can't believe where my career has taken me over the course of time. Like I said, I've been able to speak nationally and internationally. I've been able to, now I'm publishing a book with one of the biggest publishers out there right now. I work with some of the smartest minds in the world, Olympians, Olympic coaches. I've worked with, dozens of CrossFit Games athletes, national champions in powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting. I'm truly blessed. I've been able to speak and be on podcasts with some of like what I thought were some of the smartest people in the field are now I'm now sharing a stage with, which is absolutely amazing to me. But me running fitness pain free allows me to do these super, super cool things. And I'm just so appreciative and I have so much gratitude for that. And it's been such a huge win-win situation for me because I've been able to hopefully help other people and then help myself, along the way. So how do we actually do this, right? How do we actually monetize this whole process, right? Because there's definitely a method behind the madness. And if you just start doing this willy-nilly, it's probably going to fail, okay? There's definitely a process. I have invested so much time and effort into learning how to market and learning how to sell. And that's one of the skills you don't get in physical therapy school. It's one of the reasons why I'm actually sharing this today, because I noticed that new grads have no idea how to do this whatsoever. And it's taken me years and years to figure this out. And the other part is that I don't even realize just how much knowledge and how much time it's taken to master this. Because now it's very simple and easy to me, but it's not simple at all when you're first starting, right? So first and foremost, you have to build some sort of audience, okay? And that's what I do at fitnesspainfree.com. And the way you do this is by providing some sort of value, okay? And I think the simplest way that you can provide value to a given audience is you probably have to have an idea of what your audience is. For me, like I said, it's very, very specific. And then you have to know what type of problems exist within that community. And then you want to go about and solve those problems and share the solution with folks, right? And then what we're trying to do is to figure out the problems and solve them for profit. That's really what a business does, if you think about it. Figure out what the problems are and solve that and make a profit by doing that, right? And that's really the nuts and bolts of it. And like I said, having a specific market is going to be easiest because you're going to know what the problems are. And for me, it was a bit of a natural thing because I was kind of the target market, right? I knew that I wanted more knowledge about how to be better in strength and fitness as a physical therapist. And I saw that there was a big lack. There's a big hole in terms of products and services out there to learn how to become better. And I tried to basically create that myself, right? And because of that, I very intimately knew the problems that existed. And I currently do a lot of research about this. So like I said, we have a lot of students that come through Champion, and we have 2 to 5 pretty much at all times throughout the course of the year. I'm always asking them about what don't they know? What do they wish they had better access to in terms of courses, programs, mentoring? What are your biggest holes? What are your biggest in knowledge? What are your biggest frustrations? What can I help you with? And I'm constantly trying to figure out how to do that. I'm a big creeper on, let's say, Reddit forums, Facebook groups, trying to figure out what those biggest problems are so I can hopefully solve them. And the last piece is I'm doing it right now. I ask questions. How can I help you guys? What are your questions? And I directly answer them. Doing that right now in real time, right? So that's what I do. And I'm always looking for win-win situations, right? This is straight out of how to influence people and win. I forget the name. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I think is the name of it. I'm constantly looking for win-win situations, right? How do I provide a ton of value to you and to a customer and profit from that? Okay. And that's what we're looking to do. And obviously, I do a lot of this on social media. Back in the day, this used to be mostly on a blog or website. Websites have died a bit. They're still a thing. My website is ultra valuable to folks. I really believe that I provide a crazy amount of value for free. I think it's one of the highest value platforms out there for free, absolutely free. You could just learn, spend a whole year reading my website, right? And still not go through everything and gain a crazy amount of knowledge by doing that, right? It's gotten to the point that I've been writing for so many years that a lot of the old stuff I wrote is either wrong or I don't believe in it anymore. It's kind of crazy how much I've gone full circle and how much content I've created, right? So that's the basic system. And the next piece is that you have to have a product, right? And you can kind of build an audience and then create a product. I think what's probably best is to figure out a problem, right? And then create some sort of audience around that problem, right? So I follow a guy, his name is Dr. Kickass, and he is big into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and basically contact sports, right? He's built his whole audience around that, right? But he doesn't have anything to monetize. And what's interesting about that model is that you essentially are building an audience and you're figuring out what they like and you're figuring out their problems. You're trying to figure out how you can best serve them. And then you make a product that answers all of those things, right? And I think that's probably the best way of going about it. Although if you expect to monetize, you have to have some sort of either service, right? Or product that you sell, right? And what is interesting to me is that a lot of folks that come into Champion, a lot of the students that come into Champion and they consume my content, they believe that the reason why I produce content is so I can get more customers through the door, more patients, right? And yes, it does do that. But if you consume my media, you'll see pretty clearly that the content isn't really designed specifically for patients, right? I use a lot of clinician terminology. I say the word Achilles tendinopathy. I don't say the word Achilles tendonitis, right? I don't say knee pain as much as I say patellofemoral pain, right? And there's a difference there because someone who's a clinician is going to see patellofemoral pain and say, oh, this content is for me. If you have, Uncle Joe that has knee pain that sees patellofemoral pain, they're going to be like, I don't know what the hell that is, right? I'm trying to create content that's specific for clinicians, right? So what you'll notice is that I'm trying to attract clinicians to buy courses, and that's how my entire business runs. It's not I'm trying to attract patients to come through the door so I can work through that way, which you obviously can do. But for me, I've made educational courses, and I kind of did this in reverse. I just make courses in the beginning willy-nilly, right? Anybody that wanted to make a course with me, I'd make a course. Like, well, what are we doing? Okay, we'll make a course about that. And that works, right? Because you can create a course and hopefully a few people buy it if they trust you. But I think at the end of the day, you're trying to find a very specific problem that a lot of folks have that you can solve. And you're hoping that the audience, you want to pick an audience, actually has money to give that money to you to solve that problem. Okay. And so how I've done that is through making educational courses. And this was, for me, it was a lot of trial and error. So I made a ton of different courses. I made a lot of different training programs. And over the course of time, what I did is I just fine-tuned what I sold. And I just started to serve the audiences that were profiting the most for me. Right. And that ended up being educational courses. Right. So sorry, I feel like that was a long, kind of confusing last few minutes worth of talking. But at the end of the day, that's kind of my process and where I've come to. And essentially, my educational course is all based around solving the problem of how to excel treating in strength and fitness. When people graduate from PT school, that's going to be a huge hole of knowledge, right? It's kind of a hot thing right now. People like strength, they like fitness. Hopefully that continues on, right? Because I love it too. And that's how I make, my business. And then I also talk about how to gain the respect of your community. I said this in my FPF Mini Course, but essentially the reason why most folks want continuing education is because they want their patients to value them, right? They want to be seen as a valued member of a community, right? And I try to help you do that. And the other thing is I write a lot about how to profit based on your knowledge. A really big problem right now is that physical therapists don't feel like they're getting paid enough, and they all have these huge student loans. And I have these student loans too, and I understand. I want to teach you how to be a better entrepreneur. I want to teach you how to make a little extra income, right? Make a little more money than the average bear. You're putting in more time and effort. You probably deserve to make a little more money than someone that doesn't, right? And I'll teach you how to do that. And the last piece is that I try to provide no-brainer offers, right? So one no-brainer offer, at least in my mind, is like I have a $1 trial for my Fitness Pain-Free Insiders. I have like hundreds and hundreds of hours of educational content in there, and you can get all of that for $1. I'm constantly thinking about ways about how I can sweeten the pot, right? So I'm going to be giving CEUs out soon in Fitness Pain-Free Insiders. It's going to be a big part of well, we'll see how it goes over the course of time, right? But I'm hoping to make that a big part of how I continue to grow insiders over the course of time, is that it's $1 to sign up. It's cheap after that. You get CEUs, you get a crazy amount of content, right? I want the offer to be so sweet that essentially you're like, I feel like an idiot not signing up for this because it's such a great value. Okay. And that's really what I'm trying to do. And I do the same thing with my Fitness Pain-Free Certification, with my shoulder course, my knee course. I put so much thought into how to make the certification no-brainer offer. I offer tremendous discounts for students. I have a crazy amount of CEUs. The amount of knowledge in there is far, far, far greater than any other course I've purchased for $1,000, $2,000. I've spent thousands of dollars on courses that had so much less than I have. And I think one of the biggest problems is folks are afraid to buy my course because they don't feel like they have the time to. So what I've done is I've gone out of my way to make these fast track programs so you can super quickly consume all the information super fast. So what I'm trying to do is make these courses that are absolute no-brainer offers. So they're so juicy for people to buy. Okay. That's a big part of how I try to get people to buy things. Okay. And at the end of the day, I think what you're trying to do is get your audience to know you, right? And that's, you got to get yourself out there, right? And you got to grow yourself and get bigger, be on podcasts and grow yourself. And you have to get people to like you and ultimately trust you, because if they don't know you, like you, trust you, they're not going to buy programs from you. Okay. So what's my model? My model is to do a ridiculous amount of really good and free content. Okay. So I go a little nuts, and sometimes I think I do too much, right? But I produce, 2 to 3 podcasts per week at the least, with Ask Mike Reynolds Show, with Fitness Pain Free Show, and the Ask Fitness Pain Free Show. I do a video segment on YouTube every single week, right? I put out 3 pieces of short form content every single day on Instagram. I have 5 to 10 pieces of content on my Instagram and Facebook stories every single day, right? And I've done this for years, right? I put out a crazy amount of information. I do 3 blog posts per week still, right? And the idea is that I want my free content to be better than most people's paid content. All right. What ends up happening is that if you buy one of my courses, the level of information, boop, it goes up. It's even better. Right. And that's actually hard to do. But what I'm hoping, what the idea is, what has worked so far for me, is that people support me because they like me. They want to give me money because I've helped them so much over the course of time. Right. And if they support me, they're going to get even more out of it. All right. And that's really my entire business model. Give away everything as much as I can for free, so people like me as much as possible. Hopefully they support me to go the extra step. Okay. That's really it. So how do I go about doing this? Right. It's a lot of free content, but there's this idea of warming people up or building a relationship with people. Okay. And I've gotten this from digitalmarketer.com, from Ryan Dice, but essentially it's this idea of like, if you got on your first date, you're not going to ask that person to marry you, right? You go on a first date, right? And then if things go well, you go on more dates. You keep on building this relationship. And eventually you say, hey, do you want to meet my parents, right? You go and meet your parents. And then eventually maybe you get a dog together and you move in together. And like, hey, do you want to marry me? And that's the last piece in that entire stage, right? So if I want people to buy products from me, and if I just say, hey, buy my stuff, right? Especially if I haven't even met you yet, who the heck is going to buy your content or buy your product? They're not, okay? Unless your product is super good and it's going to solve that problem immediately, right? People aren't going to buy that product. So essentially what you do is you try to warm people up, right? So essentially you've seen this. If you follow fitnesspainfree.com, I try to put out the best possible content I do that solve the most common problems that people are facing, right? As quickly as I can, right? I do this via free content. And then my next step is to try to get people on my newsletter. Okay. So I'm constantly putting out what they're called lead magnets. And And I want these to be win-win situations. So essentially, you are going to come into my funnel, right? And let's say you go to my website and you go to a shoulder related article. I am going to hit you with a shoulder related lead magnet. Let's say, complete guide to rotator cuff tendinopathy, something along those lines, right? If you follow me for long enough, you've probably seen that. And I want those pieces of content, they're free, right? And they're very juicy, hopefully. So they give you a bunch of evidence-based information very quickly, okay? Kind of moves you forward a little bit with whatever problem you're facing, right? Let's say that you're a clinician and you're having trouble treating rotator cuffs. I want to get a little bit unstuck, get a little bit better. Download this free lead magnet that gives you that, okay? Very, very quick. And what happens is that now you're on my newsletter, okay? And on the back end of my newsletter, there are funnels. And what I try to do is send you more very valuable information and warm you up more and more and more. And every week I deliver a newsletter update, which has more super, super valuable information. So all the social media content I'm producing over the course of the week, you get all of that into one spot. And if you read that every week, it's going to make you a better coach and clinician. So the idea is I'm warming people up. I'm building trust. I'm getting them to hopefully like me, trust me. And I'm also, hopefully making them better clinicians, right? So if they never purchase from me ever, that's fine. That's awesome, in the sense that they're getting better, hopefully, and getting value. But hopefully over the course of time, this deepens the relationship and they eventually go down that pathway of, you know what, I need to get some CEUs and I like Dan and I want to learn more about the shoulder and how he treats, I'm going to buy this course, right? And that's the whole thing. That's exactly how I make profit, right? And I have these sales throughout the course of the year, which again, if you're on my newsletter, you've probably seen, where I will sell my products routinely over the course of the year. So every January, I'll sell my training programs. And then in, February, I sell my certification. And then after that, I sell my insiders. And I keep on going throughout the course of the year. And it's set and it kind of changes from year to year, but that's the basics of it, right? And I generally make the majority of my money by doing these sales, okay? So by doing these promotional offers. So we went through the whys and the hows of how we run fitnesspainfree.com. So now let's get to the juicy stuff, right? How much money does Fitness Pain Free make? How much money do I make, right? So, again, the problem is that as a physical therapist, we have a fairly low income for the amount of time and money we invest in comparison to other professions, right? I just paid my plumber $200, right, for less than an hour of work. And that's not with any of the parts that I had to pay on my own in order to fix, the sink. So it's funny because, we undervalue ourselves tremendously as physical therapists. We have so much knowledge. We solve such a large problem, which is pain and disability, which is a huge issue nationally, internationally. And we get kind of paid peanuts for it. Like I said, my plumber's getting paid, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times the amount the average physical therapist does per hour, right? I think a lot of that is based on kind of insurance. And there's a lot of issues that we'll not get into, but that's a big problem, right? And I just feel like as physical therapists, we have so much more power, right? We solve such a tremendous problem. I think we should probably profit for that a bit more than we do. So I'm currently in a cash-based model. I'm at Champion Physical Therapy and Performance. So if you look at my income, it's going to be a little bit better than the average physical therapist in the United States. But I think at the end of the day, you're still trading your time for money, right? So if I want to make more money, I can see more patients, but there's only so much time in the day. So eventually I'm not going to be able to make much more money, or I'm going to just basically burn out because I can't see the amount of patients and have to sleep at some point, have to be able to see my family, right? So there's a cap. And what Fitness Pain Free allows me to do is to eliminate the idea of time for money, right? Because if I sell a course, make the course once, I put an investment of time in to make that course. And over the course of time, I continue selling that. And I'm marketing to a global audience, right? So I have the opportunity to make a lot of money when I launch this course, right? So for me, I'm not trading my time for money anymore, right? And the other piece is I still have to create the products, update the products, make the products better, market them, sell them, get better at selling them, continually do that over the course of time, pay employees to help me. So it's not as simple as trading time for money. There's still a lot of time investment. It's just that for that time investment, you can get more and more money, okay? And at least at this point, and it's been changing a lot, keep in mind, I've been doing this for 12 years now, right? I make on average, right, 2 to 3 times the amount of money per hour working on my business than I do seeing patients in person, right? And I've been working somewhere between, I'd say, 10 to 30 hours per week on my business for the past 12-ish years. So you can kind of do the math on that. If you guys want a more in-depth breakdown of my income and also how much money I make on given products and break that down a little bit more. I've considered doing that because I've gotten that question several times. People are always curious how much money I make. Um, you know, I can do that. I can break that down. So just let me know in the comments you guys are more interested in that. But I want to give you an idea of what I currently make. And the last thing I will say is, and I already said this, is I've done this for 12 years. I didn't make that much money in the beginning. Right? When I first launched my coaching program, I was making, I want to say like 400 to $700 per month at best, right? In the first year of doing it. And obviously things have gotten better since then, but I started a lot lower and I was putting a lot of time and effort at that point. So you could argue that I was making a lot less money per hour when I first started. There's a huge time investment until I was able to get to the point where I was. And I think the other piece is that I'm a bit of a psychopath in terms of aggressively being stubborn about making this thing grow. And the large majority of businesses will fail over the course of time. So this is not an easy endeavor. But what I will say is there's a huge opportunity that physical therapists and coaches and clinicians have. And I think I'm at the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of folks out there that do extremely well, much better than I am doing, than I'm trying to grow. And I continually am growing over the course of time. So yeah, there is a big opportunity here. And hopefully I'm able to help you in the process. And if you do want to learn more, again, I'm going to produce some more content in the future to help you guys out, but just sign up for my newsletter, see what I do, copy my strategies, right? And Mike Reinold was so helpful for me, just because he's like, hey, just copy what I do. This is what I do. It's what works. Use my program, use my system, right? And I recommend you do the same. Just if you're really stealing exactly what I'm doing, don't steal exactly what I'm doing. Don't copy my products, right? At least give me credit if you're going to use some of my information. But yeah, you feel free to copy my systems and stuff. Yeah. Boom. Lastly, I wanted to let you know about my Fitness Pain Free Mini Course. So if you really like what you're learning, this is the next step. Go download it for free. This is a lead magnet, just so you know. You'll go into my funnel, and I'm gonna smash you with emails for the rest of your life. I'm just kidding, but this is basically how exactly how I kind of run my business and get hopefully deepen the relationship with you. So now you know all my secrets, right? So I can't fool you anymore. And lastly, I just want to open this up for questions. I'm going to take a look at Instagram, on YouTube right now. We had a Mitt N asking, do you have ACL rehab programs? I have a lot of ACL content. Like I said, just go onto my YouTube channel and put in ACL, and there's just a ton of information there. I have several podcasts on it you can learn more about. In terms of a specific protocol, I don't have one yet. I'm actually making that, and I'm going to be putting that into future courses. So stay tuned. If you're looking for a really good protocol, as I always recommend, anything by Mike Reinold, Kevin Wilk, Lenny Macrina. University of Delaware also has really great free protocols. You can check those out if you're looking for protocol, if you're a physical therapist. So let me just check onto Instagram. If you guys have any questions right now, leave that in the comments. Let me take a look. All right, let's see what we have here. Looks like we have a few questions. Let's go all the way to the front. Okay, good. What's up? What's up? What's up? Reading through. Thank you for all of the joins. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Scrolling. Falgun 1312. It takes huge effort to make everything look simple. I'm going to agree with you there. I always thought, just a quick aside here. That was a comment by Falgun 1312. I had this professor, Dr. Keatries, and I really liked him in school, and he was my orthopedics professor. And he made things so simple to the point where I felt like he was teaching like a 2-year-old, right? And for some of the students, it was a little offensive. They're like, this guy thinks I'm stupid, right? He's teaching me like I'm an idiot. But at the end of the day, I learned things so well just because he made it so simple. And I think that's a very helpful thing to do as a teacher. Boom. Scrolling. Hug from Spain. CrossFit Burgos. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. How you guys doing? Cool. All righty. Wow. Dr. Physio Fit. Hey, G. Love from India. You're amazing. Thank you very much. You are amazing. Hello from Boston. Thank you for watching. Neville. Would you consider making a program for recovering from a deadlift injury? I have. So I have programs on my site. So if you guys want a 100% done for you program about how to get out of low back pain and get back to deadlifting, I have that. It's called Ultimate Low Back. It's on my website. If you want to check it out, you can buy it, right? If you want something free, I have a crazy amount of content on my site. just go to the low back section. I have a lot of articles on how to rehabilitate yourself. So if you're an individual looking for some help with low back pain, getting back to deadlifts, I have a ton of that. If you're a clinician looking how to help your patients, I got that as well. I have a ton of that information. Okay. Boom. And I think that's it. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. Have a lot of gratitude for you. Like I said, the reason why I'm able to kind of live my passion and profit doing that is because of folks like yourself. So I'm super grateful for that. Thank you for watching today. If you guys have any questions in the future you want me to answer, leave that in the comments. I will do that for you. I appreciate it again. All right. And I'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye-bye.